Welcome back to The Explainer. We're breaking down the massive late August situation report from the National Interagency Coordination Center. If you follow this stuff, you already know the American West is burning. But, the daily headlines often totally miss the sheer operational scale of what's actually happening out there on the ground. So, let's map out exactly how our nation is fighting back.
Let's just jump right in with a number that really sets the scale here. Nearly 7.8 million acres burned across the United States so far in 2026. To put that into perspective, we're talking about an area larger than the entire state of Maryland, just completely scorched. It's a staggering figure, and it instantly tells us why this year is pushing our national emergency infrastructure right to the brink. To wrap our heads around over 51,000 individual wildfires, we're going to break this explainer down into 5 quick parts: a nation under fire, the massive human response, the Northwest Inferno, battles across the West, and finally, the weather fueling the flames.
All right, Part 1, a nation under fire. Let's look at the staggering scale of this 2026 crisis.
So right now, the entire U.S. is sitting at preparedness level 5. Now, you already know this is the red line. It literally means our national resources are stretched to the absolute breaking point. At PL5, the system is fully tapped, indicating widespread, severe fire conditions that demand a massive, highly coordinated national mobilization just to hold the line.
What's really wild here is the sheer volume of active, uncontained large fires that our 22,000-plus personnel are trying to juggle. Think about this: 86 uncontained large fires right now. Add 13 brand new large incidents emerging on top of that, plus 225 smaller new fires reported just yesterday. Our crews aren't just fighting one single front, they're playing this exhausting game of whack-a-mole across the entire continent, day in and day out.
Which brings us to Part 2, the massive human response. This has evolved into a full-on global and military coalition.
Because when domestic resources hit PL5, you have to call for backup. This is way beyond a local effort now. We've got 2 15-member incident management teams and 212 fireline personnel who flew in all the way from Australia and New Zealand. On top of that, 240 active-duty soldiers from the 7th Infantry Division out of Joint Base Lewis McChord have been deployed to physically cut fire lines at the Little Giant Fire. And up in the sky, we've got highly specialized Air Force Reserve and Air National Guard C-130 air tankers dropping retardant all across Oregon and California.
But as we talk about all these logistics and troop deployments, we really have to pause and remember the human cost here. On August 23rd, an incident support crew member tragically lost their life following a fatal medical emergency on the Frijoles fire lines down in New Mexico. It's a very sobering reminder of the ultimate sacrifices being made by the over 22,000 people currently working in these incredibly brutal, hazardous conditions.
Keeping that in mind, let's move to Part 3, the Northwest Inferno. Ground zero right now is Washington and Oregon.
The megafires up in the Northwest are honestly defying comprehension. These aren't just forest fires anymore. They're massive geographical events. Take Oregon's Big Grass Fire, over 578,000 acres. Thankfully, they've wrestled it to 93% containment, but it's just massive. Over in Washington, the Sinalacan and Little Giant fires are each chewing through around 150,000 acres, and Little Giant is sitting at just 21% contained. We're talking about single incidents consuming hundreds of thousands of acres at a time.
And while crews are getting a handle on some of those, new ones are erupting with terrifying speed. Crews on the ground at places like Oregon's McCully Fire, which currently has 0% containment, are facing exactly this kind of explosive reality. When the situation report says extreme fire behavior, crowning, spotting, and torching, it means the fire is literally climbing into the tops of the trees, the crown, and the wind is just launching burning embers miles ahead of the main front, sparking new fires instantly. It is an incredibly dangerous environment to fight in.
That takes us to Part 4, battles across the West, stretching all the way from California's coast into the canyons of Utah.
Progress out there is wildly varied. The landscape changes, but the threat doesn't. You've got a massive success story up in Washington with the Kaiser Canyon fire, almost completely defeated at 98%, but then contrast that with California's timber fire in the Los Padres National Forest. It's threatening homes and stuck at a very stubborn 26%. And then there's the fast-moving Slow Canyon fire over in Utah, sitting at 0% containment and actively making these really dangerous uphill runs. The big takeaway here is just how diverse the threat profile is depending on exactly which state we're talking about, and why stopping these fires is absolutely crucial. It's not just trees at risk.
In Northern California, the MP-18 fire is directly threatening critical communications infrastructure. Over in Nevada, the Mouse Meadow fire has sprawled across 52,000 acres of the Nellis Air Force Base range. Colorado is battling the 102,000-acre Aspen Acres fire, and Idaho is scrambling to catch the newly sparked Flint fire before it totally blows up. Everywhere you look, critical assets are on the line.
Finally, Part 5, Weather Fueling the Flames. Let's look at the meteorological drivers behind all this.
Right now, our crews are basically caught in a vice between two massive atmospheric threats. Down south, you've got brutal, record-approaching extreme heat baking the region. We're talking 100 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit in places like Arizona and New Mexico. But then up north in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, they're battling the constant, terrifying danger of dry thunderstorms. That's when lightning strikes the parched earth without enough rain to put out the spark, instantly igniting new fires.
Now you couple those extremes, the triple-digit heat and the dry lightning, with locally breezy westerly winds, and you've got a perfect recipe for disaster. These winds, sweeping along the Cascades and the Sierra Front, act exactly like a bellows on a fire. They're just feeding oxygen into the flames, pushing them deeper into the dry brush, driving those massive uphill runs, and causing the long-range spotting we were talking about earlier.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, it leaves us with one incredibly difficult question. With the weather clearly still against us and a coalition of over 22,000 people, from local firefighters to international allies and active-duty military, pushed to their absolute limits, how long can our nation actually sustain this defense? The numbers show an unbelievable fight, but they also show a crisis that is far from over. Thanks for joining me to unpack this reality. Keep learning, stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.